Senate Bill 236 by Senator Bell, enact relating to highways.
Ms. Campos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 236, a district-specific bill, would allow the City of San Jose to vacate a public service easement to ensure public safety. This bill comes in response to dangerous activity taking place at the Grand Staircase, which is a staircase of about 200 steps that lead through a residential area to the top of the hill. The staircase was initially designed to serve only as a way of an access to the community. Unfortunately, the popularity of the staircase also attracts illegal activity such as drugs, drug use, public drinking, litter, vandalism, and other natures, all hours of the day into the late night. SB 236 would allow the City of San Jose to vacate the dedication of the staircase as a pedestrian easement. This would allow the city to operate the staircase like it does other city recreational facilities such as parks and trails in order to ensure public safety. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Assemblymember Kansan-Chu, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I also rise to support SB 236. In the last 2 years, working as the San Jose City Council member, we try to address this issue and pretty much exhausted all the means that we can to eliminate a hotspot in the city of San Jose. So I really urge you to vote aye on this district bill. Thank you.
Assemblymember Olson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question of the author.
Without objection.
Thank you. Can you explain why the City of San Jose needs legislative approval in order to do this?
They need legislative approval because currently, when it went through the process, it was designated as a pedestrian sidewalk, not knowing a public access, not knowing that at some point it would be used more as an all-day activity at all hours of the night. So in order for the city to be able to provide any oversight to this particular piece of open space where people walk, which is normally a public right-of-way, they need to change it to a park or a trail designation so that they can put oversight on this particular piece of public space.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Assemblymember Campos, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 62, noes 2. The measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file items 77 through 80. Going now to file item 81, SB 589. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 589 by Senator Block and others, enact relating to voting.
Mr. Mullen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, SB 589 allows disabled individuals under conservatorships to register to vote if, with reasonable accommodation, they can communicate their desire to participate in the voting process. SB 589 will do three important things. First, it will create a presumption that a person has the right to vote regardless of conservatorship status. Second, it protects a conservatee's right to vote unless it is shown by clear and convincing evidence that he or she cannot communicate a desire to participate in the voting process with or without reasonable accommodations. And finally, it will align California law with federal law by stating that people with disabilities are entitled to reasonable accommodations while registering to vote. This measure has negligible and absorbable costs to the state, has received bipartisan support, and I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 55, noes 8. The measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file items 82 and 83. File item 84 for purposes of amendment. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 485 with amendments by Assemblymember Rendon.
Mr. Rendon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 485 is specific to the sanitation districts of Los Angeles County. Current law establishes the district's power to manage wastewater and solid waste. This bill would expand their authority to allow them to assist local jurisdictions in Los Angeles County with MS4 permit compliance. These amendments make technical and clarifying changes and add co-authors. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File item 85, pass and retain. File item 86, SB 626. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 626 by Senator McGuire and others, enact relating to transit districts.
Mr. Dodd, you may open on the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 626 is a district bill that pertains to Sonoma-Marin Area Rail Transit, SMART, a new transit system opening in 2016. SB 626 will enable the SMART's Board of Directors to establish a single sworn chief of police position. This will reduce costs and increase efficiency by allowing SMART to coordinate with other law enforcement agencies throughout the counties of Sonoma and Marin. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 70, no 0. The measure passes. File item 87 will pass and retain. File item 88 for amendments, SB 405. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 405 with amendments by Assemblymember Atkins.
Madam Speaker, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. SB 405 makes technical changes worked out in consultation with the Department of Finance to a recently passed trailer bill enacting a traffic amnesty program. It adds an urgency clause to make these changes effective when amnesty begins. I would request your aye vote on amendments that seek to make the judicial branch more accessible. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. We're going to pass and retain file item 89, going to file item 90, SB 516. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 516 by Senator Fuller, enact relating to highways.
Assemblymember Grove, you may open on the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in presenting this bill, file item 90, SB 516 by Senator Fuller. It passed this House by a 79-0 vote just about a month ago. Came back for amendments because the CHP officers had some amendments they want on it. Basically, the bill takes these safe funds, or the dollars that are designated for call boxes, and allows your local districts and your local authorities to use that money for other parts of infrastructure if they choose to. We all know that with cell phones, call boxes may not be as much use, but you may have a rural area where you don't have cell phone service, so you would want those counties and those rural areas to be able to determine to keep those call boxes if they choose to. But if you don't need the call boxes, it allows you and your local agencies to be able to defer that money to what they think is best in your area. So I was just asked that you continue to support this bill as you did over a month ago with a 79-0 or higher vote. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, no 0. The measure passes. File item 91, SB 489. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 489 by Senator Monning, enact relating to hazardous waste.
Assemblymember Alejo, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Senate Bill 489 authorizes the Department of Toxics and Substance Control to designate photovoltaic PV modules classified as hazardous to be designated as universal waste for purposes of its regulations and proper waste management. A universal waste designation provides flexibility to develop more effective and cost-efficient methods of handling PV modules, commonly known as solar panels. This bill is supported by the solar industry, weight management groups, and others who share the goal that solar panel waste should be managed in a sustainable and responsible way. This is a winning bill, as easy as winning a game 24-10. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 69, noes 1. The measure passes. File item 92 for purposes of amendment, SB 708. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 708 with amendments by Assemblymember O'Donnell.
Mr. O'Donnell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present amendments to SB 708. The amendments make clarifying and technical changes. I respectfully request the amendments be adopted.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File item 93, SB 793. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 793 by Senator Wolk and others, and act relating to electricity.
Mr. Williams will present.
Mr. Speaker, members, this bill by Senator Wolk is a cleanup bill that requires the PUC to allow customers in a utilities green tariff shared renewables program to enter into long-term program subscriptions and receive a reasonably estimated bill credit and bill charge for a period of up to 20 years. In 2013, the legislature passed SB 43, which directed the PUC to approve green tariff and shared renewables programs, ensuring that customers of the IOUs have the ability to subscribe up to 600 megawatts of off-site renewable energy projects and receive utility bill credits in return. Members, this is part of efforts to make sure that people who live in multifamily homes or who don't have sun and may not be of the same income level as people in single-family homes can participate in our renewable future. Ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 74, no 0. The measure passes. File item 94 will go to the inactive file. File items 95, 96, and 97 will pass and retain. File item 98, SB 219. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 219 by Senator Liu and others, and act relating to prisons.
Mr. Quirk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 219 clarifies and updates the guidelines for administering the Alternative Custody Program for female offenders, commonly known as ACP. ACP was established in 2010 to offer more appropriate rehabilitative settings to female offenders and inmates who are primarily caregivers to their children. ACP is a voluntary program run by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Participants must meet specific criteria for consideration into the program, including no violent or sexual criminal offenses. ACP is a successful and thoughtfully designed program with a particular focus on rehabilitation and family reunification. SB 219 clarifies that an inmate's medical or psychiatric condition cannot be the sole basis for denial into the program, and it establishes timelines to ensure that CDCR responds to applications in a timely manner. The author has worked with CDCR to address all of their concerns. There is no opposition and has had bipartisan support. It also has the support of the Catholic Council of Bishops.
Seeing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, noes 8. The measure passes. File item 99 will pass and retain. File item 100, SB 287. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 287 by Senator Hueso, and act relating to automatic external defibrillators.
Mr. Bigelow, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I am pleased to present SB 287. This bill would require newly constructed buildings with high occupancies after January 2017 to have automated external defibrillators, or better known as AEDs. This year, over 350,000 Americans are expected to suffer from sudden cardiac arrest. 9 out of 10 of those will not survive, sadly. Timing matters, my friends. Receiving a shock from an AED is most important in the first 4 to 6 minutes. This will increase the likelihood of survival by 70%. As one of the EMTs on the floor, the other, our good friend from Pomona, being the second on the floor, we've seen these life-saving and potentially successful devices work. I want to commend the author for working with this business community to get them to remove their opposition. The bill has received bipartisan support and is supported by the American Medical Response, American Heart Association, and the California Business Properties Association. I urge a strong aye vote on this.
I'd like to recognize our sliding MVP, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, members. I rise in support of this bill, and I thank the author for bringing this bill forward. As someone who used AEDs on numerous occasions with great success, I see this bill as having greater access to AEDs along with CPR. We'll be able to save many more lives here in the state of California. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support. Some on our side complain, and rightly so, about the number of mandates that we keep foisting on our businesses, and have used that as a reason to oppose this bill. It's yet another mandate. And I'd urge them to step back and take a look at the fact that we do mandate things like fire extinguishers and smoke detectors, and that our elevators meet certain requirements. There's simply no question that in the probably short run, not even long run, that the savings, both in terms of lives, which is clearly the most important, but also in terms of the money, the costs that are associated with these sudden heart attacks, the savings in both of those areas are so dramatic that this, to me, is a step no more draconian, indeed a lot less so, than mandating smoke detectors and fire extinguishers and that sort of thing. So I urge everybody to take a step back, take a look at this, recognize the great things that it is going to do, and I applaud Senator Hueso for bringing this to us. Urge an aye vote.
Ms. Grove, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I too rise in support of this bill. You know, my daughter grew up with a young lady named Olivia, and they went to school together. They had cheer together, sports together. And I think that if this device was in the school system when Olivia had her heart attack, at 15, all of her friends wouldn't have been going to a funeral to honor a young girl's life for just 15 short years. And I agree with my colleague about the mandates. There are so many mandates on businesses now, but this mandate particularly does help save lives, and it's not very expensive to do. And so I would ask for an aye vote on this bill.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Bigelow, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just so everyone, I think, is probably on the page is wanting to support this, but to recognize the value. My father passed away at the age of 54 of a sudden heart attack. I was a fireman, he was a fireman. Had this technology been available, I am certain today, as I stand here, his life could have been spared. Maybe he wouldn't have continued doing a lot of the things that he did. But with this technology now placed in the hands of people, I'm sure we'll save many of the loved ones we care for every day. And maybe even a stranger that you don't know, you'll be able to step up and help them. Because with this tool, it takes no knowledge, no experience to operate it, other than you pulling it off of a wall and putting it in use as you follow the instructions. Very easily done. I urge a strong aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. The measure passes. File item 101, SB 358. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 358 by Senator Jackson and others, an act relating to private employment.
Ms. Cristina Garcia, you are recognized to open.
SB Senate Bill 358 would revise California's equal pay law. California has prohibited gender-based pay discrimination since 1949, yet we still have an unacceptable gender gap. In 2014, the gender gap in California stood at 16 cents on the dollar. A woman working full-time, year-round, earned an average of 84 cents to every dollar a man earned. This wage gap extends across almost all occupations reported in California, and this gap is worse for women of color. Latina women in California make only 44 cents for every dollar a white male makes, the biggest gap for Latinas women in the nation. The state provisions, which are based on the Federal Equal Pay Act, are hardly utilized because many loopholes make it nearly impossible to establish a successful claim. Pay secrecy also contributes to the gender pay gap because women cannot challenge pay discrimination if they do not know that they are being paid less than their male counterparts. This bill will help close the gap in several important ways. First, the employee would no longer face retaliation by her employer for asking about the wages being paid to other employees. You can't challenge what you don't know. Second, this bill would go steps further than current law in its powerful combination of additional provisions that would ensure that workers can challenge pay discrimination based on wage paid to other workers at different work sites of the same employer. Workers can challenge pay discrimination based on wages paid to workers doing substantially similar work. Employers would be required to show that a difference in wages is based on a specific factor that is legitimate, serves a business purpose, and is not based on or derived from a gender bias. The California Chamber of Commerce and the Civil Justice Association of California are in support of this bill, along with many labor and equal rights groups. This bill has certain strong bipartisan support. Members, this bill is about equal pay for equal jobs. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Ms. Campos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I commend Senator Jackson for putting forth this bill. Loopholes that prevent women from being paid the same as men harms our economy and is unfair. Currently, California women who are employed full-time lose a combined total of approximately $37.7 billion every year due to the wage gap. The qualifications for a job cost the same if you are a man or a woman. Therefore, there should be no reason compensation should not be different. SB 358 is a good bill that will help restore women's salary losses. For that reason, I urge your aye vote.
Ms. Olson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I, too, rise in support of SB 358. I want to thank the author. I also want to thank the Vice Chair of the Women's Caucus for working with a wide variety of stakeholders to make sure we had a strong bill and an appropriate bill that really focuses on equal pay for equal work. It's been a long time coming, and I'm really pleased for how this has come together. We have focused on that goal. That it's shocking that in 2015 we're still having to work on this, but this is a step in the right direction. And because of the work that they've done with a variety of stakeholders, including the California Civil Justice Association of California, it avoids a climate of unnecessary litigation. It's a supportable bill, it's a great bill, and I encourage everybody to vote aye so that we can finally be paid equally to our male counterparts for the hard work that we do. Thank you.
Mr. Dodd, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, I rise in support of SB 358. This bill is long overdue. By making several significant changes to the equal pay law, the bill will help ensure that women in our districts are paid the same wages as men. I urge an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Ms. Garcia, you may close.
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Aye 66, noes 2. The measure passes. File items 102 through 109, we will pass and retain. File item 110, SB 597. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 597 by Senator Huff and others, enact relating to pupil attendance.
Assemblymember Medina, you may open.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to present SB 597 by Senator Huff, which I am co-authoring. This bill has passed through the legislature with bipartisan support. For the past 22 years, the District of Choice program has opened new doors for countless students across the state. It has provided opportunities for students of all backgrounds to attend public schools that meet their specific needs. By allowing parents to choose, the District of Choice program promotes first-rate performance and innovation in our schools. The program is set to expire next summer, leaving the legislative session as the time to run an extension. SB 597 will extend the program until 2017. The analysis accurately states that this small extension bill has no significant state costs I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Aye 66, no 0. The measure passes. File item 111 for purposes of amendments SB 641. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 641 with amendments by Assemblymember Stone.
Mr. Stone, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill by Senator Wajkowski gives consumers an additional review to review old default judgments that may be entered against them, default judgments that they didn't know about, maybe had paid off, or worse, never actually incurred. The amendments further limit the bill from what it was when it went through the Assembly Judiciary Committee, and I ask for your support on these amendments.
Ms. Waltern, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are without objection on the amendments.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File items 112 and 113 will pass and retain. File item 114, SB 716. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 716 by Senator Lara and others enacting into animal cruelty.
Mr. Bonta, you are recognized for the opening.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 716 by Senator Lara is a compassionate measure that protects elephants by prohibiting the use of bullhooks. Time in and time out, the bullhook has been directly linked to the inhumane treatment of these precious animals, with the cities of Los Angeles and Oakland going forward and banning the use of bullhooks, as well as Ringling Brothers set to phase out the use of elephants in their shows in 2018. It's time for the state to continue this work and prohibit this inhumane practice. There is no place in California for mistreating elephants, and members, this bill does not preclude elephant handlers from using other methods of interaction with elephants. But the bullhook, an outdated tool used to abuse and mistreat, should not be used. This bill has received bipartisan support, and with that, I respectfully request your aye vote on this measure. Thank you, members.
Mr. Mainshine, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of this bill. The bullhook is a cruel tool with no positive purpose. As a member of the San Diego delegation, I'm particularly proud that the San Diego Zoo helped pioneer a better way forward. SB 716 gives the last two elephant exhibitors in California plenty of time to transition to management that is safe for the public and handlers and vastly more humane. Thank you, and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Bonta, you may close.
Thank you to my colleague from San Diego for his thoughtful words of support, and thank you, members, for your consideration. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 7. The measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file items 115 and 116. Going now to file item 117, SB 672. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 672 by Senator Hernandez and acting into evidence.
Assemblymember Stone, you're recognized for the opening.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, currently pharmacists practicing in community facilities are subject to a formal peer review process, and the documents from that peer review process are protected from civil litigation, protected from discovery. Pharmacists practicing outside of community facilities are not so protected. What this bill does would put those protections in place for all pharmacists, and they would join all other healthcare providers with similar protections. This bill has received no votes, has no opposition, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. The measure passes. We're going to pass and retain file items 118 through 121. File item 122 for purposes of amendment, SB 342. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 342 with amendments by Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia.
Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise to present an amendment to SB S42 by Senator Jackson. This amendment is technical and clarifying in nature. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no... Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Briefly, I just rise to note the SB 342 and the attire by the floor jockey, and want to note that I think that's the margin of victory over this century, Republicans over Democrats, 34-2.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Garcia, would you like to close?
Just respectfully ask for your aye vote and look forward to next year's game and repeating what occurred this past Tuesday. Thank you.
Point of order. State your point of order, Mr. Gallagher.
I'll ask for that ruling now.
Sorry.
I'll ask for that ruling now on my previous point of inquiry.
Okay, so I understand there's been intervening business, so a point of order would not be in order at this time. I'm sorry. Mr. Gray, you're recognized.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. That's the 24th time I've heard from Mr. Gallagher, and I think only the 10th time from us. Or is it the other way around?
And with that, on the amendments, seeing and hearing no further debate, colleagues, can we take a voice vote on the amendments? All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. Going now to file item 123 for purposes of Amendment SB 361. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 361 with amendments by Assemblymember Waldron.
Ms. Waldron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a co-author, I rise today for the purposes of amendments to SB 361. This bill helps combat antibiotic resistance and promotes judicious antibiotic prescribing in nursing homes and by veterinarians. SB 361 has no opposition, has received unanimous support. I urge your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File item 124 will pass and retain. File item 125 for purposes of amendment SB 462. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 462 with amendments by Assemblymember Dodd.
Mr. Dodd, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, the amendments resolve a chaptering out conflict with SB 557 by Senator Hall to ensure that both bills take effect if signed by the governor. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on these amendments.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. File items 126 and 127 will pass and retain. File item 128 for purposes of amendment SB 542. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 542 with amendments by Assemblymember Daley.
Mr. Daley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 542 is a technical omnibus workers' compensation cleanup bill. The amendments correct a code citation and make other technical changes. I respectfully request your aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are passed. The bill is out to print and back on file. File item 129 for purposes of amendments SB 697. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 697 with amendments by Assemblymember Ting.
Mr. Ting, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here to present amendments for SB 697, Senator Hertzberg's bill. The amendments are technical and clarifying. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are passed. The bill is out to print and back on file. File item 130, we're going to pass and retain. File item 131 for purposes of amendments SCR 78. The clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 78 with amendments by Assemblymember Irwin.
Ms. Irwin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SCR 78 commemorates the 70th anniversary of AMVETS. These amendments make non-substantial changes to the bill, and as add co-authors, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The bill is out to print and back on file. And our final item in today's file order, file item 132, SB 182, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 182 by the Committee on Governance and Finance, an act to validate the organization, boundaries, acts, proceedings, and bonds of public bodies, to provide limitations of time in which actions may be commenced, declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Mainshine, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. SB 182 is the second validating act of 2015. We have passed similar validating acts for 70 years to cure minor errors in bond issues and annexations. This does not forgive fraud or corruption. It allows bond counsels to issue strong bond opinions that may result in higher debt ratings, lower interest rates, and lower interest rates, of course, lead to saving money for our constituents. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Aye 74, no 0. The measure passes. We're going to now move to our consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second-day consent calendar.
Senate Bill 225 by Senator Wieckowski, an act relating to medical waste, declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
The clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 76, no 0. The consent calendar is adopted. The clerk will now read the remaining bills on the second-day consent calendar.
Senate Bill 231.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 235.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 325.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 407.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 416.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 421.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 436.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 474 with urgency.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 491.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 510.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 532.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 560.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 671.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 675.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 685.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 704.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 711.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 795.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 796.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Bill 798.
Ayes 76, no 0.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 81.
Ayes 76, no 0.
And Senate Joint Resolution 12.
Ayes 76, no 0. Colleagues, at this time we're going to move to announcements and adjournments in memory. The following a number of members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjourn in memory. I'd like to just ask colleagues if you could please take your seats for these adjournments. And in addition, if we could ask members to please keep your adjourn in memories to 2 minutes. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Cooley, who is not at his desk. So at this time, we're going to go to Mr. Dodd.
Mr. Speaker and members, I ask you today to join me in remembering and celebrating the life of Judy Kern Fazio. At 71 years old, Judy was a persistent yet good-natured lady who loved to cook, paint, and read. Judy was a lifelong political activist who worked for the State Assembly, the United States Congress, and the Center for National Policy, along with other various political organizations. Judy met her husband, former Assemblyman and Congressman Vic Fazio, while she was volunteering for his Assembly campaign. Judy is survived by her husband Vic, her children Kevin and Christy, her stepdaughter Dana, 3 granddaughters, Kendra Kern, Carly Kern, Kira Jeske, and her sister Carol Davidson. Our thoughts are with Judy and her loved ones today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. We're going to go now to Mr. Levine for the next adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise to ask that the Assembly adjourn today in the memory of Liz Burko. Liz's loss was very unexpected. She had recently returned from an amazing vacation in Prague. Shortly after her return, she was in an accident while riding her scooter, and unfortunately Liz passed away while recovering in the hospital. Liz was dedicated to the mission of California state parks. She worked her way up through the ranks, starting her career as a docent at Año Nuevo State Reserve in 1985. She became a park ranger in 1991 and worked in Riverside County, Santa Cruz, and Big Basin. She also served as a superintendent in the North Coast Redwoods. In 2007, she was promoted to Russian River District Superintendent, where she oversaw 6 parks in Sonoma County. Needless to say, Liz had close friends throughout the park system and cared deeply about the park's family. Her colleagues say that Liz was always a source of encouragement and laughter. She had a way of putting people at ease with her warm and friendly smile. Liz is survived by her siblings, Marilyn Butler and Michael Burko of Cleveland, Ohio. Her family will always feel connected to the California State Parks family through Liz's wonderful friends and devoted years of service. Her loss has touched so many in the parks family. My thoughts are with Liz's family, friends, and coworkers as they deal with this sad and unexpected tragedy.
Dr. Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. It is I too rise with a heavy heart that I speak and ask that we we adjourn in the memory of Elizabeth Burko, our state park superintendent, who oversaw dozens of redwood parks, coastal parks on the North Coast. She was an accomplished 30-year veteran of a champion who dedicated her life to the state parks and its community of fellow park enthusiasts. In her position, she was known for her innovative methods and her ability to solve the challenges state parks faced during the rough economic downturn. Despite the high turnover rate for the position she held, she loved the state parks and was seen as dedicated, well-respected in her role as district superintendent. She was instrumental in forming partnerships with nonprofits and treating agencies with the highest level of respect. I had the pleasure of working with Liz on addressing the maintenance issue at one of our state parks, Hendy Woods. We were very fortunate in the Russian River region to have someone as dedicated as Liz, who worked hard during the turmoil that was created by our state budget cuts. She will be remembered as a passionate protector of public lands and a hardworking problem solver with a big heart and a kind spirit. I ask today that we adjourn in the memory of Elizabeth Liz Burko. Thank you very much.
Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Moving now to announcements. The following committees will meet upon the adjournment of session. Accountability and Administrative Review will meet in room 447, pending re-referral of SJR 16. The Banking and Finance Committee will meet upon adjournment of session in room 444, as will the Water, Parks, and Wildlife Committee in Rules Committee room 3162. The Appropriations Committee will meet upon the call of the chair in room 4202. And the scheduled session is as follows. Tomorrow, Friday, August 28th, no floor session, no check-in session. Monday, August the 31st, floor session at noon. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions will be continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Garcia moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, August the 31st at noon. Quorum call is lifted.